I'm going to rank 23 ways to improve your sleep from best to worst. Why listen to me? Well, I work with companies and individuals on improving their sleep, and I'm paid largely on the result. Therefore, I have to get results to my clients. So I have to use techniques, give advice that actually gives a high return on investment and actually works. I can't just talk about things on TikTok and Instagram that maybe get clicks and views, but don't actually give value for my clients. Second of all, I collaborate with scientists, doctors, nurses, psychologists, sleep technicians, and dentists, all people involved in the sleep field, and I'm held to quite a high level because of this. Thirdly, I've actually experienced very poor sleep for most of my life. I have symptoms of sleep apnea, I have had insomnia, and it's always been a problem even as like a teenager. Therefore, it's very personal for me. I've had to work on myself to get to a point where I can sleep pretty well, but it's been a difficult journey. So I've also had personal experience of all of these things. It's not just based on the scientific literature or what other people have said. On that note, I say we kick off. So we'll start off with warm shower in the evening. This is a kind of cool little trick. A lot of people don't know about it, but in short, if you basically have a warm shower, it can reduce your core body temperature, which is actually one of the key ingredients to get to sleep. So typically in the hours before sleep and to get to sleep, we have to have a slight cool down on our core body temperature. And a warm shower is a really nice way of helping us do that. It's fairly easy to do, doesn't cost much money, it doesn't take too much time, and has other benefits as well. So I put this in B tier, basically. It's not a revolution by any means, but it is kind of a cool little kind of hack, dare I say it, that can help people out. Red light therapy. I'm very much on the fence on this. The scientific literature, in my opinion, is still not conclusive. A lot of people do. There are more studies coming out, and it's not to say there aren't benefits of red light therapy, but in linking it to sleep, I still feel it is probably nowhere near as good as having natural sunlight. And I see a lot of it get overhyped because when there's money to be made, people will hype things up. And these are very expensive devices. I actually have one. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite in this regard, but I don't really use it for sleep. I probably put it top of D tier. I'm not saying red light therapy doesn't work, but rarely is this going to be a total game changer. This really is for people who have already conquered the things that actually work best, and they're just looking for this little bit of optimization. Bedroom optimization. So this is quite a big one. This is getting blackout curtains, getting soundproofing. This is having the right bed sheets, having natural organic bed sheets, bedding that works for you. Basically making sure your bedroom environment is as optimal for sleep as possible. Now, I'm going to put this I'm going to put it in B tier, just a little bit ahead of warm showers in the evening. It can make a big impact on your sleep. The reason why it's not any higher, it's just for the simple fact that a lot of us can't just be in the same bedroom our whole lives. We have to travel, stay at parents, stay at a partner's place, whatever it might be. And if you can only sleep well in your perfectly optimized bedroom, then you're probably not that good at sleeping. It's a harsh truth, but if you over-optimize, if you're too dependent on having the perfect bed and everything else, then you haven't really solved your problems. So I think it definitely helps. There's some basic things you should try and cover always in the sleeping environment you have, but it's not as important as other things. So I don't want to dismiss it, but it has to be said. Now, this is another controversial one. Melatonin. Now, melatonin, it is the hormone of darkness. First of all, it's a hormone. A lot of people don't know this. It's not a supplement. It is a supplement, but it's not. It's a hormone. And it is a crucial part to help us get to sleep. It's also very high in antioxidants, so there are potentially other health benefits to melatonin. However, again, it's kind of misused a lot by people. the literature on it is fairly well proven. I mean, if you know what you're doing with melatonin, it can help. But my advice for melatonin is pretty simple. If you're in your later age, or you have a specific sleep condition, and you know what you're doing, then I think it's pretty good. It'd be maybe A or B tier for somebody in their later ages. But for normal people, you really shouldn't be using external melatonin. You are more than capable to produce enough. And if you rely on the melatonin to sleep, then it's probably distracts you from the things that you should be doing, because it's not solving the problem. It's just trying to solve a symptom. So I'm going to put melatonin to C tier. It can be misused. I don't recommend it as a first call for most people. It's a controversial one, but I'm putting it C tier. But I appreciate some people will disagree with me on here. CBD, cannabis, THC. This, I could nearly make arguments F tier, but I'm going to put this in D tier, below the red light therapy. The main reason being that there's enough scientific evidence out there to show that CBD, cannabis, and THC in particular, the more active part of cannabis, can reduce the quality of your sleep. So it can affect your REM sleep, it can make you dependent, and even if you're arguing that CBD isn't as bad, it doesn't have as much negative impact on sleep, it's still something that you're doing to try and get to sleep that isn't solving the cause. So you're taking CBD because, let's say, you're feeling stressed, so it helps you de-stress. But by taking it, it's not getting rid of the source of stress. So it can help, but it's not really going to solve all your problems. So and it can have negative consequences. So it's definitely very low in my list here. I do not recommend it in most cases. Now, mouth tape. This is another very controversial one. It's big in social media right now. A lot of people swear by it. I personally have tried it, and I have to say it had some positive effects, but it really, in my opinion, has to go into D tier. I'm going to put it not as bad as cannabis, but probably not as good as red light therapy in terms of, at least, and there's a good reason why. There's no scientific consensus right now on mouth tape. There's very few studies. They've been done on very small sample sizes, largely just some people who have sleep apnea. And the scientific studies so far, some of them show it might help a little bit, some of them show it's a negative, some of them show it does nothing. Therefore, we just don't know. And all the people making big claims about mouth tape, I'm sorry, but they're just shilling their product. They're just trying to make money. There are a lot of them, or they might have had a good personal experience, but that's not how science works. Anyone can benefit from anything just due to placebo effect on its own. So for now, I will change my mind when there's more scientific papers on this, and I think it has potential to work. But ultimately, you got to be very careful with mouth tape. A bit like with CBD. First of all, it's not really it's not really solving the cause of the problem, because you're trying to solve a symptom here. If mouth tape works for you, then we've got to ask yourself why. Because ultimately, if it is working, then that suggests you've got issues with your nose, potentially. You might have a deviated septum. You might have issues with your throat or your mouth. So you may have anatomical issues with your throat. It could be tonsils. It could be that your airway is too small. It could be you have too much body fat. There's a whole host of questions we have to ask ourselves when we're having issues in terms of breathing with our mouths. Therefore, if you find mouth tape works for you, the real advice then has to be to see an ENT specialist, sensor ear, nose, throat, or to get a sleep study to try and rule out sleep apnea. So again, even if the science gets better in mouth tape and it shows that it actually does work, which we just do not know, I still don't think I would rate it too highly, because it's not really solving the cause of the problem. It's just putting some tape on it, dare I say. Sleep tech. So this means all the trackers, Garmin, Oura, Apple Watch, all of this sort of stuff. I use them myself. and I do use them with certain clients. I think it's nice to be able to track sleep, although we have to admit it's not super accurate, at least as of now. Sleep tech has done a good job at raising awareness in society about sleep issues, and it does help. There's been some studies showing that people who start tracking their sleep improve their sleep because they then know the truth. However, it can also backfire where people are too reliant on their sleep score rather than how they feel. And technology in the bedroom, especially if it gives notifications, it's connected to social media, can be a big negative. So for me, I'm putting it in C tier. I think there's a lot of good things to be said with sleep tech, but with obviously a big caveat that it's still not that accurate. At best, 70% accurate, and even less so for measuring deep sleep, REM sleep. And it's not really solving anything. All you can learn from sleep tech is that your sleep isn't great. And then it's the case of, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? It doesn't give any answers to the causes. So I'm a little bit skeptical of sleep tech, but it's only going to get better, thankfully. Eye mask plus earplugs. So this is a good little combination. Any way to basically get more darkness, especially when you're traveling, hotel rooms, maybe things that you can't control. And also for earplugs, if there's loud noises, it can wake up in the middle of the night. It'd be hard to get to sleep when there's lots of noises. Pretty cheap. I can't really say much bad things other than you just want to make sure you do get high quality products. So you want to get a silk eye mask, you want to get ideally silicone, natural, sort of biological earplugs. And I put this in the B tier. I put it behind these two. It's still better to optimize your room than to use an eye mask and earplug, but it is definitely a valid way to improve your sleep. Candles. So this can be lavender candles, scented candles, incense sticks. There's some scientific literature suggesting that obviously scents can help us get to sleep, but I'm extremely skeptical for a number of reasons. So I'm actually going to put this in the D tier. First of all, the benefits of these in the scientific setting aren't that high. Second of all, they can be a bit dangerous, candles for obvious reasons, but the biggest issue I have with candles is the vast majority of candles are made out of materials and chemicals that you shouldn't be trusting. Most candles are estrogenic. They release compounds that basically are estrogens, which can affect your hormones. A lot of them have other toxins, and a lot of candles have things in that aren't that regulated, quite frankly. So my advice on candles, if you're going to use a candle, you should use beeswax, which is fully natural. No questions of the ingredients. But if not beeswax, then a lot of scented candles could do more harm than good. So this will be controversial. People disagree with me here, but overall, I'm not very impressed. So I think it can help. In fact, I'm going to put it behind these two. I am a big skeptic. So there we are, bottom of D tier. Morning sunlight. Okay, now we're talking. Now with morning sunlight, the science is pretty good in this, in terms of how it changes, it can work with your circadian rhythm. It's free, more or less, and it's just a pleasurable thing to do. Just get in sunlight as soon as you can in the morning, get your circadian rhythm kicked off, get your blood going, wake up a bit. It's just a question of it's S tier or A tier in my list. I know a lot of sleep coaches and specialists are going to say S tier, but this is me. I'm not them. So I'm going to put it A tier. The only reason it's not S tier is I'm still not quite, and again, I can be convinced otherwise, I'm not sure how big an impact this makes compared to perhaps other things in the science. You can still get light from artificial light, you can still get light from the window, and it might depend a little bit on chronotype. And also a lot of people in certain countries don't have access to light as easily as, or at least bright light. I might talk myself putting this as S tier later. For sure, either way, A tier is very good. Getting morning sunlight, fantastic thing to do. Cannot say anything bad about it. All right, having goals. This goes straight into S tier and probably one of the most important things I'll say. There's a multitude of reasons why. First of all, mental health is a massive, massive factor in sleep, and having some sort of goal, purpose, desire to live is pretty important to mental health. And if you've got no strong goals, no desires, then what's the point of even going to sleep? What's the point of wanting to wake up? If you're not looking forward to tomorrow, you're just going to sleep procrastinate. You're going to do things that are going to self-sabotage yourself. You're not going to want to prioritize your sleep if you haven't got goals. And obviously some people get this the wrong way around. They have goals, then they sacrifice their sleep. So I think the caveat to this being S tier is it has to be smart goals where you understand the value of sleep. But if you understand the value of sleep and you have goals, then this is one of the best things you can do. Because without them, you're not going to do the good habits. You're not going to do the good things. So I struggle to see anything more important than having goals. All right, herbal teas. They're talked about a lot, just like candles, just like mouth tape, just like red light therapy. There's some scientific evidence showing that some of them, chamomile, things like this, can be helpful. They are diuretics. It could impact... They can be diuretic, should I say. So it can impact your water retention and things like this. I'm going to put it in C tier. No, I'm going to put it top of D tier. It might help in some cases. I think the placebo effect on its own can be good. And most of these herbal teas have some nice vitamins and things in it that are positive. There's not really any major negatives for the majority of them, other than what I mentioned. But they just also don't make a huge amount of difference. And if you've got sleeping issues, taking some tea probably isn't going to fix it. Not unless you do more important things above it. So it can help, but it's not going to make much difference. All right, blue light glasses. I'm not going to put it F tier. I'm going to put blue light glasses definitely in D tier. Around D tier. Now, this is going to be controversial to a lot of people, but it's quite easy for me. First of all, the scientific literature around blue light and blue light glasses is still pretty much not that heavy. The scientific literature isn't so compelling. I think the difference in sleep quality is something like 1 or 2% at best. And the main issue isn't blue light. The main issue is light in general. Therefore, using blue lights nearly encouraging you to still be watching bright lights when you'd be better off not having lights at all or dimming the lights. It's a little bit of a fad, in my opinion. It isn't really solving the cause. The benefit is minimal. They're annoying to wear, and in my opinion, this is a cash grab. So I have some, so I'm a hypocrite, but I rarely care about it. It's not high on my list of things to do. I'm just easily sold to like everyone else. So blue light glasses, they're not going to hurt you, which is why I'm going to put them ahead of mouth tape, cannabis, candles, but they're not necessarily going to be much of an aid either. So I'm going to put them there. All right, fixing your diet. This is easy S tier for me. Fixing your diet can help you on so many angles. So first of all, when you sleep, you need minerals and vitamins and fuel to, like, your body's actually doing a lot of stuff when you're sleeping. Your brain's very active. So we need to have the good nutrition. Second of all, a lot of people sleep poorly because of the food they're eating. They're eating food that's inflammatory, that takes a long time to digest. They're not getting the nutrients they need. So their body's not in a great state and everything's inefficient. And this just knocks compound effects into how bad it can mess up your sleep. Vice versa, if you improve your diet, it can massively improve your sleep. If you've got more vitamins, if you're digesting things better, you're healthier, things work more better, you're more efficient, you're more likely to do good habits. It's like everything gets benefited from improving your diet. So quick advice on diet: whole foods, vegetables, grass-fed meat, having things of low number of ingredients, non-processed food. These are the key things. You don't need to follow some special diet fads. You just have to start cooking your own meals and try and have a variety of whole meal, single ingredient items, and that's it. All right, cutting caffeine. This I'm going to put into A tier. Caffeine is a big killer of sleep for a lot of people. If they realize it or not, it takes some time to digest. Caffeine half-life is on average is 4 to 5 hours. So if you drink a cup of coffee, let's say midday, you're still going to have something like a quarter of it in your system by the time it's bedtime. So caffeine takes a long time to go through the body. Therefore, you got to be very careful. The scientific literature shows it can affect your sleep. There's no doubt about that. And it can differ between people. So there are genetic components to caffeine. Some people can take caffeine much later in the day and get away with it because they're biologically good at digesting, metabolizing it. But the vast majority of people can't. So my advice on caffeine is simple. Avoid having caffeine in the afternoon. And ideally even earlier. And cut down, do decaf instead. There's nothing wrong with coffee. Coffee's great. Teas are great in many ways, but be very careful in the afternoon and go for decaf. And you'll be really doing yourself a huge favor. You can get a massive improvement in sleep if you're addicted to coffee and you cut down on your coffee. Next is consistent bedtime. Now, there's so many studies coming out that just show that the more consistent we are, the better our sleep quality, and a number of other benefits that come along with that. It's hard to say anything bad about having consistent bedtime. The science backs us up. We intuitively know it works, and it's just how our bodies are designed for, essentially. However, the reason I'm not going to put it into S tier is that it's not easy for a lot of people. It's not very realistic in the modern age. A lot of people can't have a consistent bedtime. It's just too difficult to with family commitments, work, travel, to really keep it super consistent. Doesn't mean it's not important though. And I think we should always endeavor to have as consistent bedtime as possible and minimize the variance between sleeping time. So it is easy A tier. I'm going to put it probably ahead of morning sunlight, but that's a little bit controversial on its own. They're both very good habits to engage on. And you can't really go wrong with it. I really recommend it. But the reason I just don't put it S tier is I don't think it's realistic. And if something's not realistic, then it's not S tier to me. I think S tier has to be something that anyone can achieve. Now, journaling. This for me is solid S tier. And I'll explain why. First of all, it's very easy to do. Pen and paper. Most of the world population can achieve that. It's a fantastic way to deal with the mental issues, which are, as I said, one of the leading causes of poor sleep. It helps you to digest, unwind, take some time. That will help lower your body temperature. It helps dealing with hormones. It helps reduce wake-ups in the middle of the night because you've dealt with stress, you've dealt with things, that your subconscious has been given a bit of help. Your REM sleep is not having to overdrive to deal with your struggles during the day. And it's just fantastic for personal development. There's not a negative for it. There's just not a single negative for it. It's so easy to implement. If you just got to start by a few words each day. And it's been amazing for my own personal life, but anyone who I get onto journaling within 3 or 4 months are raving about it. I've never had anyone who disagreed with this. So easy S tier. No food before bed. Yes. I'm going to put this into A tier. So strictly speaking, you should try and avoid eating food and drink 2 to 3 hours before sleep. And the science backs this up, and a lot of us found this. And it's basically because if you spike your insulin, if you're sort of kicking off the digestion, then it takes longer to fall asleep, and the sleep quality is hampered because your body's trying to do 2 things at once. So the less the body's focusing on digestion, the better it can focus on other things in a simplified form. The only reason I don't put it maybe to S tier is just because it's also not super easy to implement, and it's not always the case either. There are foods you can have before bed that really don't affect your sleep and can be a net positive. So kiwi fruits, having honey before bed, and if you do eat things like cottage cheese, things that break down easily, have slow release, don't spike insulin, in my opinion, it's not that negative really. So it's more about what you eat to me rather than not eating. But nonetheless, you can't go wrong with this habit. It's a very good one. Weighted blankets. I'm a little bit on the fence because I just don't know the literature on it. From what I understand, it's fairly well documented, but I don't actually know, if I'm being totally honest with you. So my opinion here, I knew intuitively a lot of people who suffer with anxiety, sometimes depression, other psychological issues, which we all have, let's be honest, can benefit from a weighted blanket. It can really help us to clear our head. A lot of people report deeper sleep with it. I don't see any major dangers of it, and it hasn't been overhyped as much from what I've seen. Therefore, I'm willing to put it in C tier, but someone can change my mind on it. Okay, nighttime ritual. On the top of its advice, I'm going to put this at S tier, just behind fixing your diet. Nighttime ritual, the reason I put this ahead of having a consistent bedtime is it's more achievable. Having the same little ritual you do before bed every single day is something that we can all do. Be it light a candle, a beeswax candle like that, and then you lock your door, you put your pajamas on, you brush your teeth, and then maybe read a book for 5 minutes, whatever it might be. If you follow that day in, day out, that will give you so much consistency, and it helps your brain to know when to go to sleep, and you can bring it wherever you go. You can do it in hotels, you can do it at your parents' house. It's got tremendous benefits, and it's just not so difficult, and it's fun. Anything that adds fun to sleep and brings consistency and makes you enjoy the process is extremely important, because if you hate going to sleep, then you're not going to do it. Well, if you've got this nice little routine, ritual that you actually want to do, then it makes a huge difference. Okay, nightcap. This is our first entry into F tier. So having alcohol before sleep, wine, whatever it is, goes straight into F tier. The reason for this is that alcohol is a net negative on sleep. The science is extremely conclusive on this. There's no defending alcohol. The whole idea of a nightcap is a myth. Alcohol does not help you sleep. Alcohol is a sedative, and it will only hurt your sleep. It can help you get to sleep, but again, it's not really, because it's sedating you, and it can mess up with your REM sleep, mess up with your deep sleep, give you all sorts of nutrient imbalances, dehydration, messes with your sleep schedule, costs money, and makes you age faster, destroys your testosterone. It makes you do stupid things you wish you hadn't done, and a whole host of things I just cannot. I really could speak for days about. I strongly recommend not taking alcohol before sleep. No matter what your grandma tells you or what's been passed down by the generations, alcohol is not your friend when it comes to sleep. Nightcap is a myth. And on this note, reducing alcohol, definitely an S tier habit. I appreciate it's not easy for a lot of people, and if people want to go teetotal, that's up to them. I'm not gonna. I personally don't drink, but that's something I've only done the last 2 years. Most of my life I did drink, so I appreciate it's a difficult thing to do, especially when your friends drink, but can't argue its ability to improve your sleep. And reducing alcohol, stop drinking during the week, and reduce what you do on Friday, Saturday, will have fantastic benefits to your sleep. And remember that the negative of alcohol go on for days. One heavy night will affect you for 2, 3, 4 days. It's not just a 1-day penalty. So yes, just like this is F tier, this is S tier. Last but not least is regular exercise. This, I'm going to put it top of A tier. But maybe this is stupid. Maybe it should be S tier. Oh, it's a tough one. I will put it in S tier. Now it's a question of where in S tier. Probably after diet. No. It's hard to say. Diet and exercise are interchange. So exercise 100% helps with sleep. That's very well documented. Helps with mental health, which is incredibly important for sleep. It helps with your body recovery, helps with your testosterone and your hormones. It helps in nearly every facet of life. Therefore, if you can have goals, fix your diet, exercise regularly, have a nighttime routine, ritual, do journaling and remove or reduce alcohol, your sleep is so much on the right path to where it needs to be. Now, there's one thing I didn't cover, and that's medical things like sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, but these are not necessarily things that people can control, and it would be making this video overly complicated. So I decided to leave that for now. So if anyone watches to the end, then you have my respects. I appreciate it's a long video, but there's some serious value for those who have done so, because these are sort of things that you just don't learn in school or university, I'm afraid, and these are things that can seriously improve your life. If you can sleep well, you're basically cheating. Therefore, hope it helps, and just remember, we're not looking for perfection, we're looking for improvement.